Alright, so today we're going to be talking about the discourse around Starfield and why I find it really annoying and toxic, and why I think it's an example of a lot of things that are wrong with discourse on the internet about various things at the moment. And I suppose just to expose my biases right off the bat, I will open by saying that I am a really big Bethesda fan. I think Skyrim might be my favorite game of all time, although that is admittedly for quite emotional reasons. So obviously I was really rooting for Starfield to be good. And I suppose I'll also say that I haven't played a whole lot of Starfield yet, only about 5 hours. I have really enjoyed what I've played so far, but obviously my opinion on the game hasn't quite been formed yet. But even though I would say I am enjoying the game, there are a number of things which are just not very good. Namely, the AI is just kind of silly, and the facial animations sometimes are just, yeah, they're a little bit uncanny valley, aren't they? And most relevantly to this video, I think there's a really big discussion to be had around what the best way to do space exploration seems to be. And I would say that Starfield isn't quite that. And yeah, the complaint that I think most people have is that there's just inevitably a lot of loading screens. You don't actually land on the planet from orbit, or you don't see yourself doing it. You just go through a bunch of loading screens and then a bunch of animations. And obviously I don't think that's particularly ideal. I would prefer actually being in the cockpit and manually going down to the surface and then landing there. That would obviously, in my opinion, be better. Now, I immediately, once I make that critique, want to say that space exploration is always going to be a really tough thing to get correctly. If you know anything about space, you know that it is large and there's not much in it. If you were going to do space exploration realistically, oh my god, that would be the most boring thing I've ever seen. I mean, No Man's Sky tried to do something like that, and I think most people can agree that that game, in terms of actually interesting content, is quite lacking. And No Man's Sky wasn't even particularly realistic. It gamified it quite a lot, which is just goes to show how unrealistic and how gamified things need to be to get any kind of entertaining experience out of a space exploration oriented video game. And I think the other discussion to be had here is, when you're randomly generating really large plots of land on the go, as Starfield does when you land on planets for the first time, my god, that is a lot of processing power. That is a lot of stuff to do. Could you do that in a seamless way without a loading screen? Maybe not. At the very least, it would be really difficult to do in an interesting way, which is the issue that No Man's Sky had. And I do think the actual exploration once you're on the planet that you get within Starfield, at least from the limited amount that I've played, is really fun and enjoyable. But obviously I'd prefer it if there wasn't a loading screen. It would just be a more seamless experience, and it would be a touch of realism that I think would go a long way to make this game feel like a more living world, a world that you're actually taking a part of, which is, in my opinion, the best part of Bethesda games in general. And the reason why I spend so much time talking about that specific issue is because I think it's a really good example of how toxic discourse within communities can make actually discussing what the problem here is and what we might be able to do to fix it much more difficult than it otherwise has to be. And I'll suppose I'll just briefly give some background about why I think people are being a bit toxic here, apart from just people on the internet being arseholes, because I don't know why, to be completely honest. They just feel some desire from the void to be arseholes on the internet. I don't get it. But anyway, so Bethesda in the past decade or so has kind of dropped in the hearts of minds of many a fan after the incidents of the Creation Club and then Fallout 76. And I think for good reason. Those two things were very poorly rolled out, very poorly made, just kind of silly, to be completely honest with you. So yeah, some resentment towards Bethesda for those two things. I can sort of get it. So personally, I wasn't worried about Starfield because of Bethesda's issues in the past. None of Bethesda's issues were actually with the release of one of their regular single player experiences. All of those have been pretty good. I know some people have started saying, oh, Starfield and especially Fallout 4 were never good. I'm gonna be completely honest. Look, I don't like telling people that they should enjoy a game or they're wrong for not enjoying something. But what I will say is we weren't having that discourse before Bethesda did any of the shitty things. So to me, that gives me an indication of where this discourse actually comes from. And I don't think it's the quality of the games. Even though I don't think Fallout 4 or Skyrim are perfect, I think they're really, really well-made games. And I don't know, I just don't buy any of the arguments that they're not. They have issues, but yeah, I don't know. That's not what this video is about, so I won't get into it too much. And now I think we're in this situation where that attitude towards Skyrim and Fallout 4, where we're being really harsh on very, not microscopic flaws, but flaws that ultimately don't hamper the game experience too much. Yeah, we're just really being toxic about them. I've seen people just straight up lie about Starfield. I don't even know why. I cannot fathom how you would be so mad at Bethesda. Or maybe it's the fucking pronoun shit that's been going on recently. People are genuinely mad that you can choose your pronouns in Starfield, which is like unfathomably stupid. I don't know what their motivation is, but people have gone so far to lie about the game to make it sound worse than it is. To be fair, I don't think most people are going that far, even the people who I would consider toxic, but they're still just seeping into every single aspect of the discourse around the game. So for example, if someone brings up the, in my opinion, very genuine concern that they have with the landing on a planet system that Starfield has, they'll often do it in a way where it's like, haha, look, Bethesda's fucked up again. What a pathetic game company. And so in this case, it's not actually the issue they're bringing up, which is the toxic part. It's the framing in which they are doing it. They're doing it because they like seeing Bethesda fail. They're not doing it out of a genuine want for it to be better. And I mean, do I even need to say why this sort of conversation is not productive to have, and how it's just, if anything, wasting everyone's time? This sort of sentiment as well, I've seen, at least indirectly, seep into every conversation I've had and seen about the game, honestly, that I can think of, with maybe very few exceptions. Even with the people that genuinely like the game or expect the game to be good, there's still conversation around how people are annoyed at the toxic people. You just can't get away from it. And in that specific case, I understand. I'm making this video complaining about the toxic people, but I can't get away from that toxicity. It's everywhere. And to be very clear, if you don't like something, like, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to like the things that I do. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is don't be an arsehole about it. And at least have honest critiques of the thing that you're critiquing. And again, I think this is an area of the game which requires honest discourse. And we're not having it. Because, as I said, this toxicity is seeping into everywhere. I can't escape it. And this gets into the much larger conversation around discourse on the internet in general. Because, I mean, you might be thinking it watching this video, why is this guy screaming into the void because discourse on the internet is toxic? Of course it is. It always has been, it's always going to be. And yeah, I get that. But, well, first of all, this toxicity has actually seeped into the real world as well. I've had a lot of conversations be influenced by it. But I think my main point is that as someone who enjoys the game and wants to enjoy talking about the game with other people who enjoy it, there is actively no way for me to do that. At the very least, if I talk about the game like that, there is going to be talk about the toxicity around the game. And again, it's not just that people don't like it, it's that people are being fucking assholes. And this happens in so many areas of internet discourse, not just Starfield or not just video games. For example, Doctor Who, completely different, I know, but as some of you know, I'm very sure, the past few seasons of Doctor Who have been not amazingly well received. And I think in many cases for quite good reason. But if I enjoyed an episode of more recent Doctor Who, as a lot of people did, there were good episodes in that run. There was actively no place that anyone could speak about it, at least on the internet, where there wouldn't just be some guy saying, oh my god, Doctor Who is dead. Bring back, I don't fucking know, the Slitheen or something. There was a reference like maybe 3 people got. That's awesome. I actually think the most egregious example of how toxic this discourse can get would be around everyone's favorite polarizing a little movie, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Now, I am not going to get into The Last Jedi. That is a bit of a can of worms. However, I'm sure everyone can agree that no matter what your issues or lack thereof with The Last Jedi were, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, was not the correct way to respond to them. And I bring that up because, to me, Rise of Skywalker really feels like a response to The Last Jedi, as in it's at its very core, it exists to be what The Last Jedi wasn't. It's almost spiteful. And this is what I mean. Nothing productive ever comes from spite towards something else. At the very least, it just makes genuine discussions of what problems actually are and how to fix them near impossible. And everything I've mentioned today, every piece of media, yeah, they have problems. And yeah, we should talk about how to fix them. But we can't. And in the case of The Rise of Skywalker, they actually caved into fan pressure of fans being just toxic because they're idiots. And look what happened. It was awful. The result of people listening to what these, I'm going to be blunt, idiots actually wanted was awful. Now, I'm not saying that every critique of The Last Jedi was idiotic. I'm just saying that the people who were very toxic about it were idiots. So what do we do about this? Yeah, look, I don't have an answer to that question. I am kind of just making this video out of sheer annoyance because I want these games to be better. I want the next Starfield game, or especially Elder Scrolls 6, to be amazing. And I just have the concern that Bethesda's going to learn the wrong lessons from what's going on with Starfield at the moment. And to be fair, I do think that the people blindly hating on it are a vocal minority. But when you're driven by hate, I mean, hate is a very passionate emotion. Like, I remember seeing with Doctor Who, like, people at the end of every single episode on Reddit making paragraph-long posts about, like, how Doctor Who is dead and how this is going to be the last episode they ever watch. And then you go on to their Reddit page and they've done the exact same thing, like, for the past 10 episodes. And to be fair, in that specific case, that might have been a troll. That wouldn't surprise me. But holy shit. I don't know. That's some really dedicated trolling. I've seen people do crazy shit motivated by hate, and that wouldn't surprise me. So yeah. Point being, when you criticize something, don't do it out of hate. Do it for a desire for things to be better. I think that's just more productive for everyone. And that's not just video games, that's life. That's politics. When's the Volpes political discourse arc starting? That's another rabbit hole. Anyway, let's not get into that right now. Well, thank you for watching this, once again, very ranty, rambly video. I thought I'd make this video on Starfield because I have a lot to say about it. And to be honest, I've kind of just been playing Starfield and not my usual Victoria 3 content. So, I don't know. I don't want to play Victoria 3 because I want to play Starfield. So I'm going to talk about it instead. I don't know how this video will go in terms of views, but I'll be back to Victoria 3 content relatively soon, I reckon. So yeah, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, all that jazz. I don't usually make Starfield content on this channel or Bethesda content in general. I usually make content about a much nerdier game that called Victoria 3 that if you're just a Starfield fan, don't even worry about it. It's not your thing. But anyway, I might do more stuff like this in the future, so give me a subscribe anyway. I will appreciate it. Yeah. Goodbye.